Alright everyone, Shikai Hokan here, wanting to talk about his personal fight stick. Yeah, I've been wanting to talk about it since I've done building it on May 31st, 2023. But a bit of a backstory here. I had built one before and made a video about it back in 2019. During that time, I just want to know how arcade stick felt like and do a rather lousy research which end up with me buying your typical arcade DIY kit. Yeah, you know which one I'm talking about. Everyone knows what it is if they try to make one. Despite the build being scuffed thanks to my noob drilling skill, it was fine since I'm new to the whole arcade stick and I've been using pad for fighting games, except for the fact that the joystick that came with it was really loose. And when I got my Sanwa joystick later on the same year, my box enclosure were only able to mount 2 of the screws and it keeps coming off because of it. That made me abandon the idea of using arcade stick and play fighting games. Until my friends touched on the subject of arcade sticks and dragged me into this rabbit hole again. Yeah, you know who you are. Anyway, let's talk about my custom build. I buy this custom arcade stick enclosure and some of the parts that we'll talk about later from a small builder called Beroleh Berkat. The guy has been helping me quite a lot during the process of building this awesome stick. It uses an ABS container which only available with the grey color and big enough to be placed on my lap. Mounted on top of it is 2 laser cut acrylics with an awesome artwork of my channel mascot made by SHIMAZAKI XUELI and Jonayuna. The layout I called the F-type layout is based on the Felix layout, but I moved the right mouse buttons out to top and bottom side of the main buttons so I have easier access to it without using my pinky finger. On the left, I made it central for all of my auxiliary buttons with the start button protected by rotary stop button cover, which I don't recommend for use in any vehicle due to potential hazard it may provide. On the front, we have USB pass-through to connect the PCB and PC or consoles, and a small drawer handle for carrying purpose that also acts as cable protection. The right side of the enclosure also has the same drawer handle for cable storage. Bottom side has nothing special aside from me hot glued a mousepad and velcro to store the Allen key provided by the seller in case I have to open it up in emergency. Inside, you can see the component and how spacious it is if I need to store some spare parts for my fight stick. In fact, this foam I use to support the top plate while recording this is stored inside the enclosure because it's really handy when you can open up and just place it anywhere you want, right? Anyway, as you can see here, I use Sanwa GLF's joystick which I modified with red aluminum shaft, 4-pound spring, and bigger actuator that I got from Focus Attack, making it much stiffer than stock Sanwa joystick. The buttons, while the one on the side are random Chinese buttons, are actually Red Crown 202 buttons I bought from Arcade Stick Indonesia and used black Sanwa OBS F30 that I got from Beroleh Berkat. Both buttons felt great to use, but I'm planning to replace all the face buttons with screw-on buttons later on in the future. Near the buttons, I zip tied the PCB to the cardboard piece that I stick onto the top plate with double tape, which is a good alternative if you don't have PCB mount fit or wanting to cut costs a little. The PCB itself is actually Raspberry Pi board that is attached to the decaf? Yeah, I'll just say decafs. Pico fighting board that use Pico ARM version of GP2040CE firmware that has since listed in their legacy device after 0.7.2 version rolled out. And yes, the board was soldered by Beroleh Berkat as well since I don't have much experience with soldering currently. So, how does it feel compared to my build from 2019? Well, it is safe to say that it's so much better than my previous build, that's for sure. Both buttons felt nicer and easier to press than my LED buttons since it has wider surface compared to it and lower profile when not pressed. My lever is no longer came loose after a certain amount of time, except for one time I didn't fasten the screw tight enough. But well, that's on me. The F-type layout making it much easier to access the two buttons that are normally accessible to picking finger on most standard layout like Felix, Noir, Sega Arcade, and many others out there. While it is a pretty empty box inside, due to its construction and material, it felt weighty enough for me to play both on lap, table, or even floor if I have to. And the addition of the pass-through make it easier to store away the cable or replacing it when it eventually broke far in the future. Oh, also, apparently it's pretty good for playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but that's really subjective, like your controller of choice for playing fighting games. But this fight stick is not without a downside. First thing first, that is really obvious throughout the video is the fact that the screws are not recessed, which is not a problem for the most part, except for my left hand. Another thing involving construction that may bother some people is the fact that the acrylic edge isn't beveled, that may not be comfortable to some, including myself. This can be solved by either using one of those model kit sanding block, or you can buy a glove that can cover your wrist, which is less than ideal for most people. Well, it works for me because I just get used to it. Either way, it's basically an extra work for you if you want to play comfortably. Another problem that it has is the fact that the enclosure size is quite tall. Even without my extra pad underneath, it's still quite tall if you look how I practically can place two 30mm buttons on top of each other if I want to. This may turn off some people simply because size affects comfort during play. I'm personally fine with it since I'm somewhat big, but your mileage may vary. Also, compatibility can be a problem depending on what platform you are using. While GP2040 CE boards in general are great for PC, Switch, PS3, and Xbox 360 as far as I know, PS4 player will run into 8-minute timeout if they try to use it on PS4 mode since it is not an authorized controller, while PS5 and Xbox Series console are completely won't work without a workaround or two. You can get around this by using some converter like Brook Wingman or just get the Brook UFB Fusion if you really intend to play on those consoles. Lastly, if you're thinking this whole ordeal is cheaper than buying one off-the-shelf fight stick, you may want to reconsider it if you just want to get a standard layout like Felix or Noir, since the entire cost is practically almost the same and maybe even more if you have to buy the tool first or asking the seller to do some of the work for you, like soldering for example. You might as well buy something like 8-bit Do or Mayflash arcade sticks if it's available in your country, or just one standard layout. Overall, I have really good time using this fight stick I built and it made me invested in fighting games all over again. It is fun trying to get used to it again and learning more trick while not having to worry about all the jank stuff used to plague my previous build. So I expect to use this for a good amount of time with more games and maybe not just fighting games. There are several things that I learned from this though. For one, planning things and doing the research before starting a project is really important, especially if you don't want to spend more than needed. I actually bought another top plate before I decided to go with the F-type layout I currently use. That's an unnecessary cost that can be saved if I done that before doing anything that can be used for a better button set or other things that significantly increase the quality of life for my arcade stick. The other thing that I learned is that soldering and drilling is such a priceless skill in this whole project. Knowing how to drill opens up different options in terms of button placement, which is exactly what I do to the side of the enclosure. And had I no soldering skill, I could have cut costs significantly, since asking someone else to do it practically double the price of assembling the PCB, which is not ideal. Then again, I don't want to ruin this one since it's my first on getting a much proper PCB compared to the zero delay board that I used to install inside my arcade stick. That said, this is not gonna be my last project involving a controller. I have these guts of my old controller that I used to start my channel back in 2016. I'm planning to revive this controller from its long slumber. Yes, I'll be doing a pad hack and turn it into an all-button controller with a certain genre in mind. If you want to see it, be sure to subscribe to the channel and don't forget to like this video so I know you guys are interested as to where that plan of mine goes. Anyway, thanks for watching, and remember, I'm keeping my eyes on you, so keep on living, buddy. Keep on living. I'll see you guys on the next one. Later. Oh my god! What the hell was that bounce? Wait, is Ami not working properly? Oh, come on. I called it assist, but apparently that doesn't work as intended because it doesn't slow down time anymore.